Hello and welcome to another episode of the Distil-Nation NZ podcast. This is sort of a special episode, but my name is Tom, and this is Cameron. Hello, Cameron.
It's good to be here, as always.
If you listen to the podcast, you know who we are already, but if you don't, welcome. Hello.
What are we doing? We are a podcast that is aiming to champion the New Zealand spirits industry, that there are heaps of incredible producers doing amazing things. We're going to talk to them. There are also lots of topics and issues that affect the community and society, and we look into those as well. So, like tax, history of alcohol,
talk to the producers, talk to the distillers, talk to the people in the industry. We want to know everything about New Zealand spirits and what's going on, and we want you to know about it too. So that's the goal, Let's just share all the information and let's elevate our local industry, I say.
Yep, that's what we're about. What did you do recently to elevate our local industry, Tom?
I don't know if I elevated it much, but I am now the new owner of the Juniper Collective in town here at 112 Cashel Street in Christchurch, which has been a predominantly gin store for the past since 2021, and I've taken it over now and added a sub-brand called Spirit and Spoke, and I've changed the entire store from not just gin, but also to all spirits, but specifically New Zealand spirits.
Yeah.
So the Spirit and Spoke brand is to do with everything that's not gin, and then we have the Juniper Collective brand, which deals with all the gin. The shop is called the Juniper Collective. We've got the sub-brand in there. And we recently had our first event, a big public event, which was our...
This was kind of like... It was your opening day launch, really.
Yeah, it really was. And we were able to tie it in with Matariki. The new year sort of thing. It's a new beginning. So we had a special Saturday with 5 or 6, 7 distilleries sort of hanging out in the shop for the day, for the afternoon. We had Smoke and Barrel hang out out front. And the whole idea was just get people in to see all these new spirits, learn about the different distillers, get to talk to the distillers, try the new spirits. And I had a great day.
I mean, you were busy.
Yeah.
You had a lot going on, both as the coordinator of the event and the new owner of the store, and so there was lots going on your end. Kind of, what was the big focus for you?
For me, it was when I wanted to meet, of course, all the regulars and stuff like that. That was kind of my hope for the day, and it was good because I sort of worked a lot at the checkout for the day, and people would come up and they'd be like, "Oh, you're the new owner." I'd be like, "Yeah, how's it going? You've been here before." And then they'd tell me all about, they've come in the past, and they're very excited about the changes. One of the funniest things that I've heard quite a few times is like, I've been coming here for gin for since it opened, and now I get to bring my husband because there's whiskey, and that's great. And I was like, "Oh, that's fantastic."
Hashtag men can drink gin too.
Yeah, totally. And women can drink whiskey. There's nothing wrong,
Indeed.
So.
Indeed.
We had a good spread of distillers. We had whiskey, gin, vodka, rum. We had it all.
And some fruit liqueurs.
Fruit liqueurs. As well. Whiskey liqueur, plural.
And that was my job for the day. My job. Was I got to go around, and because I knew that Tom was going to be busy, so I wanted to try and capture some moments from the day, and I got to chat to a whole bunch of the distillers. So first up, New Zealand Whiskey Collection, tough. He was really busy.
Yeah, Michael from the New Zealand Whiskey Collection
and
down
I
in Dunedin.
did not get a chance to talk to him, but he had the full lineup of the older Omaruvian series as well as the newer, what they're bringing out. But we have talked with Michael, and he has said that he is going to come on the podcast at some point. Yeah. So we are going to hear from him, just not today.
And really exciting, he did clarify some points because we've talked about the South Island single malts on the past podcast.
Yes.
And it was the bottle we had in the podcast was one that was produced at a different distillery and aged by them. However, the stock now that's out in the taller, skinnier bottles that we didn't have on the podcast, that's their own stuff they've distilled and are now releasing themselves. So, it's no longer the old Wilson stock anyway, but it's something new, and so you can tell the difference between the bottles. That was what he told us.
Yes.
So if you've got a fatter, shorter bottle like this one here, which if you can see on YouTube, if you're listening, sorry, just think of a shorter, stubbier bottle. And if you've got a taller, skinnier bottle, that's the newer stock. If you're ever wondering, just ask somebody though. This is not a secret. So.
But also, and I still get a large amount of pleasure from this, just the fact that Michael came up and he said, boys, I listened to your History Part 2 episodes, and here I'm just going to, where you weren't sure, I'm going to clarify. So he listens, friend of the show.
How good.
Yeah,
thanks, Michael.
But the first one I did get to chat to, and, well, actually, I didn't get to chat to Jeremy because you must have been free for 5 minutes.
Yep.
So we'll introduce this clip from Jeremy and we'll play that. But he had two, I want to say, big ticket items that I was not expecting to try on that day.
Yeah, I was expecting him to bring a sample. I thought this was sort of like a, hey, check out this fun sample. But he actually brought bottles. So Jeremy's from Kiwi Spirit Distillery up in Takaka. It's a family-run business up there. They got his dad, his sister, all running it, as well as some new people on board, I understand. But he brought a 28-year-old Heaven Hill bourbon. That was so cool.
You heard that
Yeah.
right. A 28-year-old bourbon that... Now, there was a Kiwi connection to it.
Yes, so his dad did his apprenticeship, I believe it was at South Pacific Distillers, I think that was the name. And at that time, that distillery was importing bourbon in the barrel, and they had imported this barrel of Heaven Hill, and somehow it's ended up at their distillery now, at Kiwi Spirits, and it's just been aging in Takaka this whole time, 28 years later.
Now, that's... If we can touch on a point, if we go back to... the history podcasts that we recorded, and Scotch originally could be exported in the barrel, but I think one of the reasons that the law was changed was because unscrupulous people could add to it, take away from it, cut it with other stuff to use and trade in on the Scotch name, while also, well, making that barrel go a whole lot further by adding some New Zealand whiskey or spirit to it. And I know that the laws around bourbon are really strict about where it can be made, but does that mean that, or at the point in time at which they got that barrel, that the law was not yet that it had to be bottled in the US?
The law is still not that it has to be bottled in the US. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was made in the US, aged in New American oak, and just wound up all the way down here in little old New Zealand. And 28 years later... they're bottling it up, and they've got it at a really reasonable price point of like only $300 for a full-size 700 mils.
For a 20.
Yeah. So I do have some in the shop if anybody wants some at the Juniper Collective in Christchurch. If you want some around the country, just shoot me an email. We can get it shipped to you, no problem. But it's really cool. I mean, it was great whiskey too, wasn't it? Yeah.
All right.
There was one more.
Oh, okay,
there was the other one. So they had a 24-year-old Kiwi rum as well, and that was one from the distillery that they had made in New Zealand. I think it was South Pacific Distillers. So they had made that in New Zealand, and it's been aging for 24 years, and it's a beautiful rum at 24 years old, and that's about $250 as well. And it's really cool that he brought both of those, as well as his usual gins, vodkas, his Waitui whiskey, which is already 8 years old, which is very aged for New Zealand's. But yeah, have a listen to the clip. This is me and Jeremy having a chat about it.
So Jeremy, what have you got? You brought it into the Juniper Collective today. What do you got?
We've brought quite a lot of our range with us today. The most popular has definitely been the Greenstone Gin.
Yep.
This is made with locally foraged totara as well as kahikatea and orange blossom. And there's a real cool fact about this as well, is that the totara tree has a chemical in it called totrol, and it's the same chemical in juniper that makes it taste like juniper.
Oh, really?
So despite the fact that it's like quite a heavy New Zealand botanical gin, it's more of a juniper forward that comes out of it, and a really nice kind of like sweet peppery flavour. I call it a mossy gin, of all things.
I didn't know that. That's really cool. Oh, okay, that's cool.
Fun gin facts for the day. We've also got our Delightful Dry, which is my personal favourite, and this is made with lavender and lemon that we grow in the distillery, and it is absolutely scrumptious. We have a more of a traditional London dry. This is our Champions Gin. This is the one if you're a little bit upset with your kids or your boss and you need a gin and tonic. This is definitely the one to lean to.
Take care of you.
Yeah, and this one's 100% made from spices. So there's actually no greenery, no floral, and no citrus goes into this. And it is probably everybody that works at the distillery, this is our favourite gin.
Yeah.
And we've also brought a couple special things with us today as well.
Yeah.
So we have also brought our Y2E whiskey, which we age for 8 years in Manuka honey mead barrels. And what we do with this is we actually start with brand new virgin casks. We use Bulgarian oak barrels for these. We make our own Manuka honey mead using local Manuka honey. That goes into the barrel and sits in the barrel for a year. And then that comes out and goes into another barrel and gets topped up.
Yeah.
And that now empty barrel has our whiskey go into it and sits in there for a minimum of 8 years.
Wow.
And we have also brought some super special stuff.
Yeah, this is exciting.
The real fun things. So we have a 24-year-old New Zealand rum. This was originally made by the South Pacific Distillery in Nelson. And this is where my father did his apprenticeship all those years ago. And at that same distillery, they also used to import bourbon from the States. And we have a 28-year-old Heaven Hill bourbon with us as well. And this is our real special little drop. It's only one barrel of this, and it's just been bottled up about a month ago. And you're the only store in the whole country that is allowed to sell it.
That's pretty cool. No, I'm excited you're here. I'm excited you got all this. And this is really cool to have down here at the shop. So there you go.
I got to try both of those, and I don't know what I was expecting, but I was pleasantly blown away by both. And I think, just to echo what Jeremy said there, yeah, it's a shame that they had to take the bourbon down to 40% ABV.
Yep.
But otherwise, I don't know how, quantity, I don't know how much there would be, but also how much more expensive would that bottle be
Yeah.
if you were paying above.
40% is still,
Yeah.
at least it's not 38.7 or whatever they usually do it at, right? The big guys.
Yeah.
So we also chatted to Ald Distillers. Lisa is their representative here in Christchurch, and she brought all the goodies for us to try, including some under-the-table stuff, which we got to try.
Yes, and that is, I've been to the old farm, and that was a fantastic experience, and I think I last caught up with Rob at Dramfest last year, where he still had, they are growing all of their own grain, and they are mashing and distilling on site on the farm where they're making their grain. And I mean, they're in the unique position in that they're making grain, or they're making whiskey from all of the different types of grain that they are growing.
Yep.
So if you've been to a whiskey festival where they've been, or maybe you've bought their tasting pack, they have got the new make from their wheat, barley, triticale, corn as well. So they've got all of those, but this is the first time that they actually had a wee bit of aged stock that people could try.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you can actually buy some right now if you go onto their website. It's kind of a hush release, but they're celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the farm. And so they've released a 5-year-old expression of the barley single malt. So if you do want to try some of the old age stock, now's the time to head to their website and get some, because it's hush hush. It's not really known, and I don't know why. It's available on the website anyway. So you should go get some. We haven't got some yet, but I probably will. But we did get to try it. It was great.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
We sure did.
Yeah, and of course they had their regular gins, but
Yes.
let's listen to this clip from Lisa, and you had a good chat with her.
I sure did.
Okay, so I'm Lisa from Old Farm Distillery. We're from Southland. We're a grain farm, and the farm's been in the family for 100 years. We put
Look at me.
Yeah, we
we'll
put
just
a
talk.
distillery on in 2017 into the engineering workshop, because you just really don't need that much space to make tools and stuff. And we grow 8 different grains, have sheep milling around, eating and doing their thing out in the paddocks, and we make awesome spirit from all our grains. mostly as whiskey, but we have 3 gins as well.
Yes, so tell me about the gins that you've brought today, because they're each quite different.
They're very different. So there's quite a lot of gin on the market in New Zealand, and we went, we're from Southland. We've got to tell the Southland story. So the Southland landscape is oceans bordering plains, bordering mountains. So our 3 gins start and feature the ocean, the farms, and the mountain, using 3 of our different grains. Oats goes really nice, is creamy. You might think of porridge, but think of exotic gin paired with oysters, lemon, pink peppercorn, and a bit of vinegar. And you have our Southern Ocean gin, with, of course, the juniper thrown in there to make it a gin. Fish and chips on the beach, with the waves crashing around, and you can sit and enjoy, whether it's a hot summer day or it's cold in winter, and reminisce about being out there in the summer. The farm gin is all about summer, haymaking time, the grasses, the smells, and we've got it all encapsulated in the bottle. You've got orange, cardamom, and clover hay with a malt barley base in there. Moving along to the mountain.
Yeah. I've had the ocean one, and that was, oh my goodness, that was the sea right there. I don't think I've had the mountain one, so tell me about,
The mountain, you've got to do a little bit of work before you're allowed to taste the mountain gin. You've got to climb the hill on a cold, crisp morning, breathe in that fresh crispness of the air, smell the trees around, and that's what we're trying to encapsulate in our bottle of mountain gin. A twist on a London dry with New Zealand Horopito, Kanuka, and lime thrown in there with a wheat base. Wheat is really crisp spirit, so it goes along with that flavour profile really well.
Now, I've visited the farm and I got to try each of the new makes, but when I was there, which would be about 3 years ago,
Yep.
Rob and Tony, they're saying like, okay, the whiskey, it's still ages away. You're not going to be able to try a whiskey for some time. But Wee Birdie's told me that you've got some samples along here today.
We've got a sample of our gin, our whiskey, I should say.
Lots of gin talk.
Lots of gin. So this has been in a bourbon barrel, ex-bourbon barrel. It's coming up close to maturity. It won't be released till next year, but we're just letting everybody that wants to, that's got a bit of whiskey hankering going on in a gin shop, to have a little taste of that and see what goodness is coming out of the farm next year.
So which one was that one?
This is our malt barley.
It's the malted barley.
Yep.
Because I just tried again
Scotch.
the oat new make spirit,
Yes.
and that was, oh my goodness, just creamy and rich, and oh man, that's I think when they come out, they are going to be something special. I'm sure.
As I said before, the farm's just turned 100, and so we actually have that oat new make spirit as a whiskey. You can order it online as a pre-release now, and you'll get your bottle in August.
I think that's a lot sooner than everybody was expecting to be able to get an old whiskey.
That oat being light and delicate ages faster in the wood than the traditional malt barley does, so that's why it's ready now, and it's amazing, caramelly, beautiful, delicious.
And I think it would also surprise a lot of people to hear that actually there are whiskies being made with things that aren't barley, other grains. So
at Old Farm, we are a little bit different. We grow 8 crops. Why don't we try them all? So they're all down in 4 different barrel types. So you've got your ex-bourbon, your ex-sherry, your ex-port, and your ex-New Zealand Pinot Noir. They're all maturing happily out there in the bond stores, looking out across the paddocks, doing their thing.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Thanks heaps. Thanks for sharing the story.
That's all right. Thank you.
It was so good to see Leslie.
Yeah, Leslie, we've had her on the podcast before.
She is friend of the show.
Yeah,
I love being able to say people that are friends of the show, but she genuinely is. She is just. She has a smile that is infectious, and she is just a joy to be around. Yeah,
it's a shame Adam's over now in the UK, but Leslie was there and lighting up the room, of course, and she was sort of a last-minute addition, I'll be totally honest, because she came in the day before to the shop and delivered to me all her stock, and I was like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Like, you want to come in? Like, let's tell people about your new fruit gins, which they only do once a year, and she was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm coming. So, yeah.
And yes, so she had the spiced, the verbena, and their classic, which I highly recommend that if you have not heard our conversation with Leslie and Adam, that was hands down one of the most fun conversations we've had.
Yeah.
I don't think I've laughed that much through an interview, but they were just fantastic. So in that episode, we tried their first batch of fruit gin / liqueurs, and they are fairly upfront about the fact that they were flying by the seat of their pants and doing the best that they could in the circumstances. It's fair to say that with this newer release, they have learned from mistakes.
Yep.
They have made some changes. So I got to try a few of them, but also, Leslie talks about exactly how they have changed things for the better and what they've done differently.
Yeah, so have a listen.
It is so good to have you back here.
Yay, thank you.
Friend of the podcast.
I know, right?
And you now have, you've got your amazing range of gin that we know and love, but what's new?
So we've just released our new range of fruit gins for the year. So we've done all of these ones before, but these are new and slightly different. We used a kind of a slightly different method when we made these gins compared to the ones we did last year, and I think it's given them a fuller fruit flavour, and it's just got there's a little bit more fruitiness to it. So we've got our plum gin here, which is very delicious. We also have our raspberry gin, and then we have our slowberry and peach gin. And so what we did when we made these gins, we soaked them for a good 3 months. The slow and peach for a little bit longer, but essentially around 3 months. We took the fruit out, we stewed the fruit and made a syrup from the fruit. And used that back into the gin to kind of sweeten it up a little bit. And I think it's given it a rounder, fuller fruit flavour. And so,
because your first lot was still really fruity.
Yeah.
But you also made no secret of the fact that you were flying by the seat of your pants and making it up as you went along.
Yeah.
So do you think you've learned a bit more, made some tweaks and some improvements this time around?
I think so. The gin, we still use the London Dry as the base.
Yeah.
And we've been a bit more discerning about where we get our fruit from. So previously, like our blackcurrant, we just kind of source blackcurrants from wherever we could get them. We have got a blackcurrant coming, by the way, and that's still soaking, so that's not quite ready yet. But all of the fruit has been sourced locally. So the fruit for the plum, it comes from the garden, our tree in the garden. The peach and sloe, we had to import the sloes, but we balanced that out by using the peaches from our tree. The raspberries are from Otahuna berries in Taitap, so they're pretty local. And the black currants this year we've got from a collective in West Melton, which is literally up the road from us. So we've tried to keep it as local as we possibly can, because we're very aware that a lot of our botanicals, we have no control about where they come from. We have to import them. So when we can control it, we do. So that's us.
I love that local approach.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love that you've come back with a range of fruit gins,
I know.
and they're going to be here in the Juniper Collective.
They will, yes, yeah, they're
Awesome.
all here. We've got a range. The shelf is actually looking a bit sparse because a lot of people are buying them, which is great. So we've got all our whole range. We do have a vodka as well. So as soon as we've got
that's new.
Yes, it is. So we've as soon as the labels are ready, we're getting the labels printed soon, and as soon as they're ready, that will be on the shelf as well.
I'll have to come and
that
talk
will
to you
be
about that when
the
that's ready.
The bootlegger botanical vodka. So so it's a botanical vodka. So it's not a plain neutral spirit. It has got a wee bit of flavour to it, but it's nice. It's subtle. It's clean. It's delicious.
I'm glad I caught Leah, because I'd said to her, hey, I want to have a chat with you for the podcast, if that's okay, and she agreed, but then she said, I've got somewhere else to be. I think there was another event that she had to be at, and she was running out the door, and I said, okay, give me 5 minutes and I'll help you pack up your display. So that was...
Leah's from the National Distillery Company up in Hawke's Bay. Right?
Yes.
Yep. And they brought their hemp gin, their classic gin, I believe, and a new one for us, which was their rum.
Yes.
Which was the surprise of the day, I'd almost say.
It was the surprise of the day. And yes, I tried that. And again, I am the first to admit that while I enjoy rum, there is so much that I don't know because it's not a staple on my shelf.
Yep.
But that was one I tried and went, wow.
Yeah.
The label,
It's a beautiful bottle.
It's a beautiful bottle, and hopefully you either see a clip on social media or you come up on YouTube and have a look at the podcast, because the shape of the bottle, the design of the label, there's clearly a lot of thought and effort gone into making that.
Yep.
Credit to them, because it was stunning, and that was look, if I had the money to be just throwing around and walking out with 28-year bottles of bourbon, of course I would, but if I could only take home one bottle from what was being showcased on the day, that would be my pick.
Yeah. It was good, and I was surprised. I don't know why. I just thought I didn't expect it to be such a high quality rum. But here, have a listen to what Leah had to say on the day.
Thanks for coming. What have you brought along with you today?
So today I've brought 4 of my favourite products that we do here at the National Distillery. I've got our Verdigris, which is our London Dry. It's our flagship gin. It's probably our most award-winning gin internationally. Then secondly is my personal favourite, the hemp gin. We use toasted hemp hearts, which come from inside the hemp seed. Gives you a beautiful nuttiness, oiliness. Thirdly, we've got our last gin, which is the New Zealand native. This one really focuses in on all the native botanicals we have here in New Zealand. It's got harakiki, which gives you a gorgeous mouthfeel. It's got kawa kawa, which is part of the green pepper family. It's also got karamu berry, which brings this level of sweetness to it. I'd describe it as like a sweet orange marmalade-y taste. It's a biscuity gin. It's a warm gin, great with ginger ale.
Biscuity gin.
Biscuity, yeah, a little bit of
Have to try that.
taste.
And then hold up that bottle of rum, because that is really something. How come it's a gin distillery also making a rum?
We're not actually a gin distillery. We're just a distillery point blank. So we've got whiskey aging at the moment. We do vodkas. This is our golden rum. It's made from sugarcane and molasses. And then we age it for 12 months in an ex-Buffalo Trace bourbon barrel.
I mean, when I tried that, it was banana, toffee. I'm not a big rum drinker, but
Neither am I.
I think if I don't leave here without a bottle of that today, it'll be a mistake.
The boys have striked gold on that one, eh? But yeah, no, we're doing all spirits. We've got this golden rum. We've also got a white botanical rum, which is bloody epic.
Awesome. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having us.
So now you didn't have this on the day, and if you are listening to this now, actually tough luck because there's none left. But just as I want to say a celebration, and to say, look, from my perspective on the outside, the shop was busy most of the day. Lots of people coming through.
Yeah.
Lots of people who I think were not regular Juniper Collective customers and who had kind of come down. Admittedly, and there were a few people who had just been to my whiskey tasting, and again may not have been traditional Juniper Collective customers, but had come down because they now know that there's whiskey and other things in the shop. So Peter, great to see you. Thank you. So how do you feel the day went as a whole?
I was pleasantly surprised at how many people showed up, and so thank you everybody who showed up.
Yes.
We sort of saw people from different mediums, from the Juniper Collective, from Herrick Creek, from Discovering Drams, just off the side of the road. Like, the people were coming in and
walking past and go, oh, there's balloons and lots of people.
And we had Christopher out front pulling people in just to say, do you want to come try some New Zealand stuff? And people were like, yeah, sure. And I don't know if I've seen the store that busy. It was we were cramped in a bit. We probably had more distillers than probably have ever been in there at one time. So it was good, and Smoke and Barrel, put on a really good feast outside. So thank you, Chris and the team, for that. And the other thing is, you on the day kind of helped me fill a role with 2 whiskey distilleries that couldn't actually be there because they wanted to be involved in it, which was and now I'm feeling embarrassed saying this name all the time, but Pocono, and because I said it wrong on social media.
No, and they yes.
And I've been corrected, so I need to elongate my O.
Yep.
As well as Waiheke whiskey.
Well, I was going to a Kiwi whiskey spirits celebration, and so I just put on my Waiheke whiskey t-shirt, and then it turns out that Mark and Roe had sent you down some sample bottles, but they weren't able to be there themselves. And so when Leah packed up, and National Distillery wasn't able to be there, and there was an empty barrel, well, I grabbed those sample bottles, and stood there at the table barrel with my Waiheke whiskey t-shirt and poured Waiheke whiskey. And as I had just told their story at my most recent event, all of that information was fresh in my mind. And unofficial ambassador.
I loved it, and I did send the picture to Ro, and she loved it as well. She was like, "Oh, that's great, yeah." And they've been so keen to help us get it into Christchurch as well, which is awesome. So, it's just about sharing those different spirits that we can't really get down here all the time, and the locally made stuff. And there was a bit of Herrick Creek, of course, being showcased. Like I said, Pocono was being showcased, and everything else was, of course, there for the tasting as well. But we've got more of these things coming up. So, and I've decided sort of over the next few months, if I may just elaborate a bit on this, we are going to actually do spirit-specific months. And so like August coming up, we've got the Aotearoa Gin Weekend, which has been a staple at that store since it began. So 2 days in August, 17th and 18th, where we'll have different distilleries every hour. And that's still going to happen. So August is going to be a nice gin month. Come September, we're going to have a rum day, a rum celebration.
Fantastic.
So that will be TBD. Check out the website for details. As well as October is going to be whiskey. November is going to have another gin, Aotearoa Gin Weekend. And then December is going to be the biggest of all. Come mid-December, we're going to have a Saturday, Sunday, full New Zealand Spirits weekend.
And I dare say that will be the opportunity. If you were thinking about getting a gift for somebody, this is the one to do your Christmas shopping at.
It will be, yeah. There's discounts on these days. Like, you come into the shop and we do discounts. So come in, see the distilleries, come see us, and we're just happy to educate and help you figure out which spirit is yours. Like, we're not there to just, it's not a walk in, walk out kind of shop. This is come in, get educated, learn about the spirits, and then we find what you're actually looking for, you know?
I think Elena, who manages the store, I think if you were to try and just walk in, buy something and walk out, that she would be really disappointed at the fact that you didn't have a chat with her about what kind of spirits you enjoy, what you've tried recently, all of those kinds of things. That she genuinely enjoys that, and that's why she's really good in that position.
Yeah, and she's an ex-distiller herself, and she's worked on all sorts of roles in hospo, and she's a huge ambassador for the community. So lucky to have her.
And I also think that September is going to be your rum month.
Yep.
I think, and I'm including myself in this, I think people will be surprised at the amount of New Zealand rum and what is out there.
Yep.
Because I knew the National Distillery Company, I knew they made gin, did not know that they were making a rum and that it was just so delicious. So yeah, I think that this one, and I'm including myself in this camp, I think it's going to be an eye-opener for people just to see what's out there in terms of New Zealand rum.
Yeah, so I'm excited that we're going to be able to do these celebrations of specific spirits over the next few months to the end of the year.
But coming back to a celebration of spirits, do you want to talk about this one that we are trying right now, which if you didn't get it at the time, tough, it's gone.
Yeah, this is a this is a midwinter whiskey release from Herrick Creek, and I've put it in a very generic label. It's a limited release 4-grain whiskey, and it's the first 4-grain I've ever done, which is our usual dusky, corn, wheat, and barley, all malted, with the addition of a chocolate rye in it. And it's been aged in it was a new charred French oak, and it's developed, I think, like the chocolate caramel side of things just really pop out. It's 47% if you're curious, and I think it's a bit thick and dark, and this is kind of the midwinter whiskey you kind of want to be sipping, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. See, and this is, I don't know, I've been on a little bit of a crusade on my own channels recently, trying to champion blends, because I think, speaking very generally as a category, it's still somewhat overlooked, still somewhat looked down upon by many. And so when you come up and just proudly, you know, like, yep, this is a blend and it's 4 different grains, and I was like, yeah, I want to try this. So it's the same makeup of your dusky corn whiskey, but with the addition of this chocolate rye.
Yeah, and the chocolate rye is only at about 5% of the grain bill, but it does shine through. And I got to be honest, this was one of the hardest whiskeys I ever made, because the rye absolutely ruined the mash as far as like being able to siphon off the water to lauter it. And I remember getting very frustrated with this batch making it, but I'm glad it turned out well.
And again, that is something that I don't think people fully appreciate, just how much work creating a blend can be when you are trying to, all right, I know that the chocolate rye adds this and I want a bit of that, and I know that the corn adds this and I want a bit of that. That there is, it's not just and this idea that somehow a blend is a way to cover up bad whiskey or kind of, you know, try and mask things, or it's a dumping ground where you use what's left over. It's simply...
I wonder if we need to clarify blend.
Okay, yep. That's fair, because we're talking about there are a couple of different categories that you can be talking about.
Because, of course, if we're talking a blended scotch, typically you're getting a whiskey from different distilleries and blending them together into a new brand. Johnny Walker doesn't make any of their own spirit. They buy barrels from everywhere else and blend it together, and you get Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
With this, this is a blend of grains, but it's still a single barrel. You know what I mean? And so it's a blend in a way. Yeah, but like it's not a blend in a blended Scotch way. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. That yes, you're not mixing together spirit from different.
Even within the same distillery, it's
Yeah.
not actually a blended whiskey. It's because you could take.
Well, it's still a blended mash.
Yeah.
bill,
See, this is where it gets confusing. You know,
Yeah,
like it's a.
yeah.
You can to get a single barrel. You know, okay, that's one barrel, right? But if you just buy, let's just take Glenfiddich 12 for an
Yep.
example. They're going to take a whole bunch of stock of Glenfiddich barrels around, and some are going to be 12-year-old, some are going to be 15-year-old. They're just trying to look for the right profile, and they put it all together. But it's all from their distillery. Glenfiddich 12 is not a blended Scotch, though. You
No.
know? So
it's still a single malt because it's 100% malted barley and it's from the one distillery.
Yeah.
But yes, it will be because they are looking to share and sell a consistent, uniform product that you will recognize buying year after year wherever you happen to be buying it. So even though the product of what you buy has been blended together over heaps of different types of barrels, it's still, it's a single malted barley from a single distillery.
yeah. And if I may put in a New Zealand example, we have the Thompson two-tone whiskey. That's a blended whiskey of Scotch whiskey and New Zealand whiskey together. So that's, that in that case is a proper blended whiskey compared to like his Thompson Peat, which is, he wouldn't consider that a blend, So,
No.
yeah, interesting.
So, but this
Different ways to sort of categorize it.
This is a blended mash bill in
Yeah.
that it's not a single malt in the sense that it is not 100% malted barley.
I have to tell you, making this is so much harder than a single malt. When I make a barley single malt recipe, I'm having a great day. It's so easy. You just put in the barley. The barley goes to the mill so fast. It goes into the mash tun. The water goes in. It goes out so easily, and then it's done. When I do this one, the corn has no hull, and then I've got to measure out the different grains, and then you mix them all up, and then it gets gummy, and then you add rye into it, and it just won't filter out, it won't lauter, and it's like, oh, why am I doing this? So I can see why everyone's doing single malt.
This is a reflection of our two different backgrounds. Well, you've got a distinctly North American perspective, where if you're talking to virtually any North American distiller, well, of course we're using different grains. Of course we have a mash bill. But then you come and talk to largely my Scottish influenced background when they're like, we've got single grain and we've got single malt, and laddie, what are you talking about with a mash bill there? Which I hope this goes some way to try and explain that. But it is darker and richer than your typical dusky, and I really love what that chocolate rye is doing. Just a hint of spice. That's quite, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different take on Dusky, and this is why I put it in a limited release label instead of a Dusky label, just because there's only one of those barrels out there, so I figured we'll just see what it tastes like, and I'm going to assess and see what, if there's anything to do with that in the future or not. And that's, if anybody's wondering about Hare Creek, yes, like this is why there's not a Dusky available all the time, and why all my Duskies are different is because, yes, 4 years into this, 5 years into this, I'm still figuring out what our end mash bill will be. And you know what? I'm at the size where that's okay. So if you're ever wondering why that is, now you know. It is still all R&D technically with the whiskey side of things, but we'll get there.
That's a great sipper. That's a fantastic sipper.
Thanks.
I love that. Just a shame that I did not buy a bottle when it was available, and that's that.
So this kind of went off a bit, but yeah, no, the Spirit and Smoke event was a great time. I hope even if you're not in Christchurch, you can still get involved with the shop. Like get involved on socials, get involved with us. We might try and find some ways to engage people around the country more as we sort of grow a bit, and.
But I think, okay, yeah, if you're not in Christchurch, the benefit of what is being offered, one, you've got your subscription boxes.
Yep.
But I think also, if you are looking to support New Zealand distillers, there is something to be said that, yep, if you are able and if they've got a functioning website and if they ship direct, there's lots of different purchases that you can make direct from them. But I guess if you are looking to try and explore something new, then you can make multiple different purchases either from different distilleries or within the category or what have you, that quite often, unless you are really trying to closely follow what each distillery is putting out, it's very, very hard to keep track of everything new and exciting and different and all the releases. Whereas what you are offering for people outside of Christchurch is at one place you can see what's coming up, what's new, and make one order and get something from multiple different distilleries.
Yes, and we're working on, of course, expanding the range to as many distilleries as possible, hopefully all of them eventually. It's obviously a matter of money and time and whatnot, but we'll get there. And if there's stuff you want to see in the shop, let me know. You can check it all out at the junipercollective.co.nz, either with a "the" or without it in front. Both will get you there. And if you're in Christchurch and you do want to do tasting events and stuff like that, we do all sorts of stuff. And it's these sort of economic times. It's time to support local at this point. Like these. Our shop here, if you've got a local spirit shop, support them if they're independently owned. It's make choices with your money, because right now it goes a lot longer. If you're supporting somebody with a face instead of maybe an overseas brand or something like that. I know everybody's having tough times with mortgages and everything, so let's just remember, stick together.
Indeed. And
Yeah.
while you have just given a great plug to your public event calendar, and definitely keep an eye on that, it's worth mentioning, seeing as you've brought it up, that the Juniper Collective can be a private tasting room.
Yep.
And if you are thinking ahead to the end of the year and your work due and you want to do something that's got a wee bit of infotainment, that's a bit of entertainment and a bit of information, a bit of infotainment, a bit of food, and maybe a couple of drinks in a classy kind of way, think about the Juniper Collective as a private event for your end of year work do. You could have somebody like Elena who's walking you through a series of gins. You could have somebody maybe quite like me who could walk you through some New Zealand whiskey or some New Zealand rum. So either way, it would be a lot of fun. You'd learn something new, try something new, have some delicious food, and be supporting local while getting festive. I know it feels really weird to be talking about end of year when we're only halfway through the year, but believe me, people are already thinking ahead to the end of the year and putting some plans in place.
And we can do it at the boutique, at the shop, or we can come to you. So if you've got a space, then great, we'll come to you. Your space, even better. And there's food and all that good stuff too. And there's all sorts of options. We can do it anyway. We're here to
flexible.
We're here to support. Yeah, that's great. But anyway, thank you again so much to everybody who's come out and support all that. Please follow along the junipercollective.co.nz or at Juniper Collective NZ on socials as well. You can check us out with at Distil-Nation NZ on our socials, as well as distilnationnz@gmail.com or distilnation.nz for our website. There's so many different ways.
So many ways. Basically, wherever you want us, we'll be there, I think.
Yeah, totally. And if you want to get, if you have ideas and suggestions, or if you're a distiller yourself, please get in touch. Let's collaborate. Let's do something together. We just do this for the benefit of the industry.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.